Well, hey there, I'm planting again. I can't tell you how long it's been since I've planted something, at least a month or so, and it feels good to be back in the dirt. And of course, this time of year is perfect for planting pretty much anything because the soil is warm, the nights and days are a little bit cooler, less stressful on plants, and a good time to be getting things acclimated with plenty of time to go until we have to start worrying about things like frosts or freezing. Things like that. I'm Erin, the Impatient Gardener. I garden here in Zone 5 in southeastern Wisconsin, and I have a whole bunch of videos on my channel about how to plant things, how I like to garden, tours, all of those things. So if you like what you're seeing here, I hope you check out some of those other videos. But today I am planting clematis. Now, if you've been here for a while, you know that clematis were sort of my first flower love. I love planting them. I love having them everywhere. I love growing them in places that are unexpected, and in fact I almost never grow them just up a trellis. Today I'm planting 4 of those, plus we're going to plant 2 new hydrangeas that are going to be new on the market next year as well. But we're going to start here with these clematis. Now here in the patio border, I guess that's what I call this area is filled with sort of some structure of some shrubs. We've got limelight hydrangeas in here. We've got tiny tough stuff hydrangeas. We've got boxwood. We've got some perennials in here like Amsonia and Sanguisorba and recently Persicaria. But the front area is mostly reserved for dahlias and other annuals that I grow. But one area that I have always struggled with is the very front edge of this border, the part that touches right against the patio. And I usually fill this in with annuals and I try something new, and I've never been satisfied with what's there. I'm going to try something a little bit more permanent now, which if it works, this is the perfect idea for me and the perfect way to do this, because I'll still be able to intermix a few annuals if I want to, but by and large I won't have to worry about this front strip if things work out the way I'm hoping they will. That's where clematis come in. So I am going to plant 3 Hudson River clematis right along the front edge here, and we'll actually back a little bit to give them a little bit of room. But these are going to be, these are non-vining clematis. This is a group 3 clematis, non-vining, dark purple to blue, dark blue to purple. I like consider it blue. It's probably technically purple, but bluey purple. And what I will do is I will probably stake them up just a little bit. I'll put a little bit of a support, maybe 12 to 18 inches up. And then after that, so they grow up a little, and then they sort of vine around it. I'm going to plant 3 right along here. And the idea is that they just fill up this front border. And if I need to stick some annuals in there or something to add a little bit more color, that's fine. Now they will bloom for a very long period of time. These group 3 clematis, these non-viners, bloom a ton, particularly if you keep on top of the fertilizing, which I did not this year. So I didn't get as long of a bloom time this year as I normally would. But if you like fertilize your clematis maybe once a month or something, you will get a lot of bloom off it. But the good thing with these group 3s is that a lot of them have these really beautiful seed heads. So even when they're not flowering, the seed heads are a beautiful show as well. All of which I think would go perfectly along this front edge as a bit of a, I don't know, just continuity here amongst all the chaos that's in this border. So now it's really crazy right now. We are right at midday and this is a full sun spot, but the sun is low enough in the sky already at this time of year that it's blocked by some of the trees that we have to the south here. And that's just a real sign that fall is coming. I ordered these clematis, and I have 4 of them because we're gonna do one other one too. I ordered these clematis. These all came from Brushwood Nursery, which is where I get all my clematis from, and highly recommend it. And they come out of their pots in plastic bags, but they are huge. They have nice, big, I just wanna show you that root system. So clematis have these beautiful yellow roots on them. And this is what you want to see in a clematis. You want to see a lot of roots. In fact, if you buy one that's kind of small, when you plant it, you're almost better off putting it in a pot for a year. At the very least, just keep it cut off because all you want it to do is work on that root system. These come pre-cut back, which is nice. The hard work, it's a little painful to do that. The work's been done for us. And they're super easy to plant, and these group 3s are great because you just cut them all the way back to the ground, like 6 inches or so is usually what I do in spring. So, and that's it. really easy. Okay, so we're going to start with the 3 Hudson Rivers, and I've already dug my first hole here, but let me show you where they're all going to go. So I'm going to try to do this without having to disturb any of the dahlias, and I think I can. I will have to disturb some of the other things that are in there though. So you can see the first hole is right here, and I'm going to even these out. So I'm sort of envisioning this whole thing full, and keep in mind that when they come out, the clematis will sort of ramble both directions on the ground. So it'll come straight out and then hopefully go this way a little bit and hopefully go that way a little bit. You have some control over that when you do that. So there's one. We're going to do the second one right between these 2 dahlias here, and the third one right behind this Wild Magic Basil in there, which will be basically evenly spaced throughout her. Hopefully the spacing won't matter that much, so we're just going to sneak them in that way. By the way, if you want a closer look at this area, I just did a tour of this area about a week ago, so you can, I will link that video. It's up here, and I'll link it in the description as well, so you can get a closer look at all the plants that are in this part of the garden. Now, I have done a whole video on planting and caring for clematis, so do check that video out, but I'm not adding much here. So I am using some of the Organics Mechanics Biochar blend, which is just like my soil amendment of choice big time lately. We'll talk about that some other time. I'm going to work on a blog post about it too. And I am going to put in just a tiny little bit of Espoma Rose Tone, which is the fertilizer that I like to use for clematis. Now, we're not trying to push blooms too much, so I'm just putting in a little bit there. And that's it, mixing that in the hole. Now, if I had, you know, this is a pretty compost-rich soil over here to begin with, so I don't feel like I need to add that. But if you were feeling like your soil was a little lacking, a little bit of compost, even a little bit of composted manure would be good to add to that hole. Clematis like rich soil that stays moist. I mean, I talk about this in that other video, but that whole adage about head in the sun and feet in the shade for clematis doesn't really have anything to do with shade. It has to do with keeping the soil moist. So if you start with a nice moist mix of soil in there, and I'm not a big one for amending planting holes, generally speaking, but you start with a nice mix of soil, and you add, you know, and you just, as long as that works, whatever you have to do to keep that soil moist is what you should do. A bit of a challenge to get in here. Now, I have dug this hole really quite a bit wider than the plant and quite a bit deeper. So it's got a nice, easy root run there. So here's the fun thing about clematis, is that a well-developed clematis, like the ones that I have here, will have like dormant buds underneath the soil. So if something happens to your clematis, odds are, don't give up on it because it will re-sprout. Now this is particularly helpful with a group 2. These are the sort of early large flowered ones that are very prone to something called clematis wilt, which is this disease where all of a sudden one day everything will go limp and within days it's just brown. That is 90% of the time that's clematis wilt, which is really common with that type, which is one of the reasons why I don't grow a lot of group 2 clematis. So what you can do is cut that all back, treat it nicely, and it should reflush. The problem is that is kind of a disease that lives in the soil, so you might deal with that repeatedly, but you haven't lost it. This year I planted a very cool group 3 clematis over in one of the new gardens, and within an hour of planting it, a rabbit came along and ate the whole thing off. Now it has resprouted. I'm protecting it carefully because it just has like one sprout. So I lost a whole season of growing on it basically, but it's not a goner, it's still there. So that's the beauty with a really nice healthy clematis, is that they have those dormant buds. So don't give up on them if something happens to the top growth on them. Last but not least, I'm going to mulch this with, I have a bag of pine bark fines here, which are so nicely broken down. We'll give this a nice layer of mulch. The only thing you need to do if you're planting a clematis here in late summer or fall is just make sure that you keep it moist. And make sure that it goes into winter nice and moist, and then don't worry about it. So a pretty important step that I'm doing here is to put a stake in by each one. Not because they need to be staked, which they don't, but to make them clearly marked, not just for this fall, but for spring as well. Because normally with a clematis, you would have a lot of the previous year's foliage that you could be looking for to know where your clematis is. Well, I won't have that with this, obviously, because I don't expect these to put on a lot of growth right now. So I want to make sure that I can find them easily in spring so that A, I don't plant something right on top of them, and B, I do have a lot of like Virginia bluebells in this garden, probably too many. They've sort of spread around, which is what they do. And I want to make sure that there's enough light getting to those clematis in spring, so I will remove the Virginia bluebells that are creeping in on its territory. But those Virginia bluebells will come up so much earlier than the clematis that I probably wouldn't know they were there unless I put in a stake. So the last clematis that I'm planting today is one I have been trying to get my hands on for a while, and I finally did. It's called Rugucci, and it is again a number 3 type, a group 3 type clematis, but it gets dark blue, purple bell flowers. And I love these bell-shaped clematis. I think they're so pretty with these nodding little flowers. And I am actually going to grow this one up the Rosy Teacups dogwood. Now, originally I had told myself I wasn't going to grow any clematis up that because I just wanted it to be a clean tree. Not a lot of shrubs and trees in this yard are allowed to not have a clematis growing up it. And I was going to leave that one sort of pure, and now I've decided that it would look really cute with those bell flowers coming through it. It's a taller one too. I think it gets I believe it's like 6 to 8 feet on this one, so it should kind of ramble its way through that dogwood with a little bit of help from me. So let's get that one in the ground. We're gonna have to plant that back not quite a bit, but a bit from there so we don't interrupt that root ball from the tree. So if we come through here, you can see that if we move back enough here and kind of tuck it along where the sesslaria is, we should have enough room from where the roots of that dogwood are coming out. And I'm gonna put it right over here on this side. I think there's already some clematis growing back here. This is a nice clear area for it to get some room to do its thing. So both of these hydrangeas are going to be new on the market next year. Proven Winners Color Choice Shrubs sent me a couple of them, so I can give them a little bit of a head start and hopefully show you what they look like next year when you might actually be able to buy them. The first is Invincible Lace. Now this is a hydrangea arborescens. That's a smooth hydrangea, which is the same that's the same species as like your Annabelles, things like that. But this has a lace cap flower that is primarily sort of pinkish purplish on the top, and you're really going to see the lacy bits of this more than you see the sort of, I think they're technically bracts, which we call flowers. It's going to be extra good for pollinators because they're going to have access to that, but also it's a different look in hydrangeas and one that I am appreciating more and more. So size on this is going to be 4 by 5 tall and wide, and super hardy down to zone 3 up to zone 8 on this. And then this one is pufferfish. This is a panicle hydrangea. So I sort of think of this as a tall bobo. So if you have bobo, and I do, and I love it, this is going to be very similar in habit in terms of getting like fully covered in flowers, but it's going to be taller. It's going to be 3 to 5 feet tall and wide. Bobo pretty much tops out at 3 feet, if that. Even that is like max, at least to my knowledge. And again, we're looking at zone 3 to 8 on these, so super hardy hydrangeas. And all of these bloom on new wood, so no worries about buds freezing out, no worries about winter protection. If a deer eats them over winter, you're still going to be okay. So really practical, easy care hydrangeas for the landscape. So Invincible Lace is going to go over here. This is the driveway garden that I did in 2020, and I'm going to admit it got a little neglected this year. You know, this garden should be pretty low maintenance once it gets established, but part of that establishment is making sure that the weeds are kept at bay, which they weren't this year. So a lot of things have kind of overgrown over here, so I'll put this on the list for next year to pay a little bit more attention to and do a little bit of changing. The grass that I put throughout here is prairie dropseed, Spiralis heterolepsis, And I don't think it was a very good choice, in part because it's so airy and frothy that it looks like weeds in here. And there's not enough of it. It's not dense enough. So I either have to increase my amount of those, or I need to, you know, put some other grass in here to sort of hold this all together in here. But I think at its final height, at that 4 to 5 feet tall, this is going to be a really excellent addition to this garden. Now, I can't get a hose here, so I do need to go get a watering can full of water to water this in now. The scent of this alyssum is so strong over here, it's like almost overwhelming. It's unbelievable. By the way, I've done nothing to this. No fertilizing, no nothing. It's just on drip irrigation. But it's just, it's redolent with the smell over here. So here's the garden that I planted with Roy Diblick. Guys, it's doing so amazing. It just looks so good. I can't believe it's the first year. The crystal blue salvia rebloomed really nicely. I mean, most salvias, when you cut them back, they bloom a little bit, but this really did well. And then right now we've got just Champia Gold Tau, which is this beautiful grass that is just bobbing and flowing in the breeze and creates this ethereal look that I really enjoy in a garden. Pufferfish is actually going to go right over here. So there used to be a tree planted right here on this corner, multiple trees. They've all died. So we're going to take this Brunnera, which used to be shaded by the tree, and I think it might be Jack Frost, but I couldn't be sure. And we're going to move it over here to a shadier spot where presumably it will be much happier, and where pufferfish should be very happy, because this is a much sunnier spot than I thought. So pufferfish is going to go right here, create a nice little corner here for us, and we're going to move this Brunnera over there. Okay, so here's pufferfish. Now pufferfish came to me fully cut back, but with a lot of buds, and it's starting to bud out now. That should be just fine for planting right now. Again, remember, this time of year we're just trying to get those roots established. We're not worried about top growth on things. Now, I did leave a couple of the Brunneras in the corner here, because I think on this side of it there will be a bit of shade, so they'll actually probably like that, because straight behind me, that's south. So that gives you an idea of the exposure here. So those Brunnera will end up on the north side of this. And I think it might be just the perfect little thing right there. I can always move those. They're actually doing better than I thought they would be in that area. So I can always move those later, but I dug out quite a few of them already. So this soil is quite loose here. In fact, I can't even like dig a proper hole because it just falls back in again. That's partly just because this is kind of sandy soil over here. Partly because this area is, I think, got a lot of jumping worms in it. And that's what they do to your soil. So this will be even more important to add some of that biochar blend in, because that will help with nutrients and also help with just maintaining moisture in there as well. So I will mulch those, water them in really well, mulch them really well, and then same thing as the Clematis. All you have to do is just keep them watered going into winter. I will water right up to a hard freeze. You can definitely water and should water after a first frost and things. Until that ground is frozen, keep watering, especially new plantings, like once a week. Well, it feels great to be doing something in the garden again, although I'm not gonna do too much in the garden. I'm gonna get this wrapped up and then I think go for a swim, because it's a beautiful day and I love it. All right, I hope you guys are having a great day in your garden. Thank you for watching. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.